And hello, movie lovers, and welcome to the show. So, with me, I have two special guests with me, and that is Paige Henderson and Nicole Murray. And they were actually, I was actually privileged to be able to review and watch Three Easy Steps. This is their short film about a character who has ADHD. And we're going to get into that as well in this interview. And so, with further ado, let's go ahead. Let's welcome Paige and Nicole to the show, and let's do it. Okay. Hey guys, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. It's always good to be able to talk about movies and just doing this interview. I just want to say it's an honor and a privilege to have you guys here. And thank you so much for sending me over Three Easy Steps. And this to me was a real treat as someone who has ADHD and how it resonated with me and stuff like that. And that's one of the main reasons why I even chose Three Easy Steps, because I thought, okay, well, I have ADHD. This is something that I feel like that represents who I am. So I think that this is actually perfect for me to watch and for me to actually see if somebody else is going through the same emotions that I'm going through too. So
cool. Well, thank you so much for saying that. I mean, as filmmakers, first off, it's great to be here as well. But, as filmmakers, like, there's nothing better than having somebody be like, oh, I feel seen. We're alike. Like, you make films to like be less alone and to help other people be less alone, kind of. So really,
it's like I want to be alone in my own little corner. Don't like have like a have black clothes on, and be like a poet kind of. It's like I would just want to be dark and mysterious.
Yeah.
But yeah, one thing about me is whenever I review films, I always go with relatability, rewatchability, and then that's how I make my rating. Because the fact that this movie I watched at least 3 or 4 times. I'm gonna be honest with you, and each time, yeah, you're very welcome. Because each time I got something different out of it and stuff like that too. Yeah, it starts off kind of funny in a sense with the way that it sets up with with the main character basically trying to make a to-do list, and then it goes to a little bit of a darker turn after the wood scene and stuff like that. But the thing that resonated with me was this, okay, guys. So as someone that has ADHD, I actually feel that. I actually feel like whenever I'm in a restaurant and everything is basically all like I feel like all my spider senses are just coming together and I'm not able to focus in on what the conversation like I'm supposed to. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, I actually take medication for my ADHD as well. So, if it wasn't for my meds or anything, I would be a complete mess. I would be unorganized and stuff like that. But I also wind up doing this. I wind up making like a to-do list. And then I actually don't do anything on the to-do list. And then I'm like, yeah, I nailed it. I'm like, did I nail that? Nah. But it feels good that I think I did, though.
Yeah. Exactly what Jane did.
Yeah.
Right.
You are Jane.
Yeah.
I miss you.
But I just thought the diner scene was very, very interesting, though. Because of the fact that you're having the conversation, then your friend gets pissed off at you because of the fact, hey, you're not even listening to me. Why should I even bother anymore? And then I like how basically the character just looks at the wall the whole time. And then she imagines herself in the woods. I just thought that was pretty cool. And I like that little retro 70s, 60s flavor to it, though, too. Yeah. I thought that was really interesting.
Thanks. Well, yeah, it's great to hear you caught on all that and everything. And got to shout out our sound designer, Isabel Roney, who we worked a lot on that. Because for people who haven't seen the film, as Jane is like slowly starting to not focus on the conversation and focus on everything else happening in the cafe, the audience does as well. So the sound, the slowly Maggie's voice gets lower and lower, and there's all of a sudden all this stuff you're hearing. And I've, again, Isabel and I worked a lot on that moment, and I think she encapsulated it so wonderfully of just like, it's not a sudden like, what's over here? It's just like the casual, slow build. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, what? I don't even realize I'm not listening to you,
Right.
I gotta
that's
say,
exactly how it is. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, and we had a lot of key creatives involved who also have ADHD, which played a huge part in it. Our editor, Laura Skelton, and our composer as well, Gina Hyojin. And like they all brought their own lived experiences to the material, and it shows, right? Like every single shot and, a lot of the techniques associated with the film have a very specific intention behind them through an ADHD lens, as directed by Paige.
Because we chatted about this, but I as well, obviously, as the director, have ADHD, and so much was from my lived experience. But specifically to speak to something you're saying with Gina, our composer, something that she brought in was this idea of like a musical motif. So whenever Jane is having a like really ADHD triggering moment, there's this like dum 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 noise coming in, because that's kind of like how her ADHD feels to her. So we played with that throughout. So that was really cool and really powerful to be able to be collaborating with other people who are experiencing a similar thing, but in their own specific way.
Right. I get that, because here's the thing. That's something that I was really glued in on, was the cinematography of the film itself and the color scheme of it and the sound design. Because I heard sound designs before where you have a character talking and it doesn't feel like that the person has any kind of disorder or anything. It just feels like, it just feels like it's not natural. This one has like a very natural kind of flavor to it, where basically, two characters are talking and the conversations just feels like a conversation that I would actually have with one of my friends or whatever. And that's something that I really like. It's not forced. The dialogue's not forced. I thought it was very nicely done as that goes. And then also too, the sounding of the clashing of the plates and the chatter and stuff like that. I thought the noise level was perfect, exactly how it matches everything that it needed to be placed. And yeah, the music and everything was really good too. The composing was really good.
Yeah, thanks. We had an amazing team. I'm in love with the sound design, in love with the score, the cinematography. So I feel really lucky to have the team we did.
Oh yeah.
And I was just wondering, like, how long did it take you to write the story, and how long did it take to shoot it?
Our writing, oh gosh, correct me if I'm wrong, Paige, but our writing was a solid, was it like a solid year or so?
I think it was probably a year from like starting to completion. It wasn't like, like I think there was a good 4-month period where we were like, all right, we got to put this to the side for a second, because we were like kind of all muddled up a little bit. Yeah.
And then actually shooting was 3.5 days.
Yeah.
2.5
days.
2.5 days.
Yeah.
Look at me, such a great producer, remembering but no, I mean it was great, and that's 3 different locations, so it was definitely a bit of a hustle. We had a super small, awesome team of all women, non-binary people, maybe a total of like 8 of us out there. And then, not including the post-production crew and everything. So, everybody was hustling. It was great.
That's awesome, though. Like, they have a good creative team behind you, and that also is there for you, because I think that's very important to have. And someone that actually cares about the project that you're working on. Because you could always have a sourpuss that in the group or whatever is like, well, I don't care about anything we're doing. I'm just here for a paycheck. I'm just here for this. But to have people that literally just care about what you're doing, that means that just gives me more to be able to do what you guys do and everything. You know what I mean? But my other thing too, scouting locations and stuff like that. Where was the scene where the camping in the woods take place at?
Oh my gosh. So that was Big Bear. But I will say there's a little bit of a story behind that. Okay. We location scouted 2 separate other weekends. And this was the time when like all the snow had gone haywire in California. Like there was like all the weather. So we went up to, was it Sequoia where we got,
I think so,
stuck?
Yeah.
We went up to Sequoia to location scout and ended up getting kind of stuck in this like closed road situation where they would only like escort you every few hours or so. And so we were, we got up, realized, okay, this location, wasn't quite for us. And then sat there for like 3-4 hours.
Yeah, like 4 hours.
Until we were escorted back down after like a 10-minute location scout.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were very lucky to happen upon Big Bear for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I definitely like the location for that scene. I thought it was really, really well captivated. The cinematography for that was really well lit and everything too.
Oh yeah. Shout out to Alessia Savleva, our DP.
Yeah, she's incredible. She's awesome and great to work with. Yeah.
And I thought that it was interesting to have the tent and having her being very frustrated at the fact that, she's like trying something new just to become a better version of herself, and try to focus in on trying to just concentrate on herself and try something different. And it's just not working the way she wants it to work. And the frustrations to go along with it. I just was cracking up laughing with this. And then her knitting, and then that's not working. And then she decides to dance in the woods. I thought that was funny too. But yeah, I always find myself like being very sidetracked. Like if I'm doing something and things like that too, it's like, I'm going to go on ahead and do this. And all of a sudden I just forget what I'm doing. And then I'm like, okay, well, I start goofing off. I start looking at YouTube videos for something. And I go in this whole entire hole. And then I was like, wait, now I remember what I have to do. So
yeah,
you're right.
You speak my language. Just constantly forgetting what I'm doing or what I have to do or getting distracted. Yeah. And that's, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go on ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, speaking to the, you mentioned like the comedy of it in the beginning and like, especially that like montage kind of segment. Right. It's like pretty funny. Hopefully it's supposed to be kind of funny, right. And then until the end when she suddenly actually freaks out and has this like big flare up and come down. And for me, that's like a big part of my experience of ADHD, as well as like I've now knowing that I have ADHD, is emotional dysregulation, where it'll just be like flares of emotion. So like that, this is my dog.
Joining the conversation.
He has ADHD too.
He's cute.
Yeah.
But it's like it's funny until it's not.
Right, because here's the thing. Even with my medication, for example, you have that high and then you have the down, right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I don't like Adderall. I hate Adderall with the crashing. It makes me into a total douchebag with the crashing. Like I turn into like the Incredible Hulk. I'm angry like at everything. If an acorn fell off the tree, I would probably get pissed off because the acorn fell off the tree or something. But with Vyvanse, on the other hand, there's no crashing or anything like that. I'm more myself versus it being like that. But when you're on medication and stuff like that, you have that high. And then once you get to that low, it's like everything just starts clashing in and it doesn't feel so much fun anymore.
Yeah.
Or anything. It just feels like everything's just chaotic around you. The noise levels just seem like they're even amped up even more than they are because you're not focused on that one thing anymore. Like you're supposed to, or anything like that either. But that's one of the hardest things that before I was actually diagnosed with ADHD and everything was the fact that, I just felt like my whole entire world was just clashing around me. And it was hard for me to concentrate on things. It was hard for me to even do tests. Like if someone ended up coming into the classroom and I'm taking my test, I would look up to see what who came in the classroom.
Yeah.
Like as if he had the answers for me. But
help me.
Right. But, I just hated the fact that, when I was younger, I was like, I wanted to be like your character. I wanted to be where I didn't want to have this. I want to feel kind of normal. Yeah. And have that norm. And I'm realizing that there is no such thing as normal. But one person might think is normal may not even be normal. It may be normal to them, but that's not normal. You know what I'm saying? It's just not. It's not actual normal at all.
No, definitely. It's not. There is no such thing as normal, but also, we touched on this briefly before this, but like for me, I realized that my ADHD is, yes, the part of me that like gets overwhelmed, or like you talking about the like acorn and being mad at it.
Yeah.
If I'm like in a really bad like space with my ADHD, that's me. It'll be like suddenly like I'm just like totally fine and I can't get my hair tie on, and I'll get like really upset for like 2 seconds and then it'll be gone the next second. Like it's really big like ups and downs like that. Lost my thought. There you go. ADHD connection.
Right.
It's the
like you'll mess with your hair for a little bit and then you'll be angry. Yeah.
Yeah. But so it's those parts of me, but I think it's also like if I didn't have ADHD, I don't think it would be this creative. I'm like, my ADHD is my curiosity, because I'm always like, ooh, what's that? But that has led me to a lot of really wonderful things, and I like trying different hobbies and exploring different things and new foods and like, stuff that makes my life for me so much fuller and richer. And I think like it is the part of me that is ADHD as well,
Right.
I
totally get it.
My brain going like this and making these random connections you could call that creativity, or you could call that distraction.
Right.
But either way, it's all the same thing, like how are you able to make those jumps from one thing to another? Sometimes
exactly, because
but sometimes you're like, I got it.
right. I feel the same exact way though. Like for instance, I'm in my head creatively constantly, thinking of ideas. I even text my co-host Rossie sometimes, like, I got ideas for a podcast. All of a sudden she gets like a whole line of nothing but ideas.
Yeah.
I swear it looks like I'm on cocaine when I'm not on cocaine because of the ideas I have. But it's just the creative minds that we have, to the point where we have all these thought process of what we want to do, and if we don't say it right away, we forget all about it. It's like a fugazi. It's like it's gone.
Definitely.
And so I just feel like if I don't talk about it, I have it's gone, and so therefore I have to. And next thing you know, I feel bad for the person who has to talk to me, because then they're getting a mountain of text messages. But you're right, though. In our minds, though, creatively and stuff like that, we're always in our own heads, thinking of things artistically and things like that, too, because that's how I am. It could be a distraction, but at the same time, I think it's the more of the fact that we feel passionate about what we love doing than anything, to be honest with you, because we care about what we're doing so much and how we feel passionate about something, to the point where I don't feel like it's a distraction. It feels more like the fact of thinking of something on a creative level.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And like with this film, without giving too much away, it like, takes a turn to a dark place. We call it like a dramedy turned horror. Oh my God, my brain. We're like talking about ADHD. My ADHD is like, all right, we're getting high gear now. But this film, without getting too much away, like on the surface level, it might feel like like we're saying, oh, ADHD bad, but it's actually not that at all. It's the main character, Jane, her refusal to like accept herself and her shame around it. That is what is bad. And actually, like, so for women are like super likely to, much more likely than men, to be either misdiagnosed or not diagnosed with ADHD, because it presents slightly differently. And like a lot of the barometers we have for ADHD are based on men, as is like the majority of the medical field. So ADHD, there's still, like they mentioned, dysregulation, overwhelming, sensory, everything. But then there's like also a lot of, not that men don't have this, but there's also a lot of like anxiety and depression that manifest themselves in different ways in women. And a lot of women with ADHD are actually prescribed or institute like medications for anxiety or depression, or institutionalized for anxiety and depression, when really what they have is ADHD. And those medicines and those ways to help don't work, because they're treating the symptom, not actually what's going on, And so like, and then when people are diagnosed with the ADHD and they have it, it's like for me, that's kind of what this film is about. For me, once I accepted it, it was such like a light bulb moment, and has been like so helpful in just understanding myself, like coming up, having, talking to my therapist, coming to ways with of like how to structure things to best fit my needs, because we don't live in a neurodivergent system of society. We live in a neurotypical systems.
Right.
And then there you go. I lost it. And
but the thing is, though, too, like sometimes I feel overwhelmed. Sometimes I have anxiety built up inside me, especially if someone asks me questions like all at one time. And it's like, okay, this is a little too much for me to process it and things like that, to the point where basically I flare up. And without even meaning to flare up or anything, it's just my initial reaction. And, I know that I need to change that, but it's a process of trying to change it. And, but I don't know if you get like that though, or anything like that, where, where somebody asks you a bunch of questions and things like that, and you just feel like it's just piled on top of you to the point where it gives you more anxiety than anything. It's like, look, I have to come back to this later.
Yeah, I think for me, it's probably a similar thing, but slightly different. Where for me, I think you mentioned this before. If I'm on another train of thought, and then somebody asks me a question, then it's really hard for me to because I'm like hyper fixated on one. And so it's hard for me to switch to the other one, and then can't go, but I couldn't fully go this way. It's like it's here, and I'm like this, and somebody asks me something, I'm like this, and then I'm like stuck, and I can't get back to either of them.
Right.
As her writing partner, I can confirm.
Oh.
Was that the most challenging thing for you, though, Nicole? I'm just wondering. I'm just joking. But I mean, I'm just wondering, like, is that the most challenging thing? What's the most challenging thing that you had to face with the film and stuff like that too? And I was just joking around with, is that the most challenging thing that you had to come up with was the writing part? I was just joking around with that.
Yeah, there you go. This gal over here. No, a very welcomed challenge though was, so I don't personally have ADHD, but I play Jane. And so we had a lot of conversations, and then I also had a lot of conversations with multiple people in my life who have ADHD. And it was really interesting and amazing to kind of learn about each person's different experience, because it does manifest so differently for different people. And then taking that and then applying it to my life of just having so much more understanding surrounding ADHD, neurodivergence in general, and just different things people need. Someone needs a second, or if, we're talking and someone needs a reminder where we're at, or if I need a reminder where we're at, whatever.
I got you.
It's super helpful to understand the different perspectives, and was something we talked about a lot as we were going into this, because in the film, there are so many different times that Jane's ADHD flares up in different ways and manifests in many different ways. And all of that is inspired from the people around us.
I can see that as well, because, you never know what other people are processes going through either, whenever they're trying to do something either. So you probably have to approach it a little bit differently, right?
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
But, I think that the writing and everything is very, very well written. And I think that your message is definitely worth telling, because I think that it's just about being comfortable in your own skin, and fixing and trying to be another version of yourself is not going to fix anything at the end of the day. All you're going to be is just a different person with ADHD at the end of the day.
Yeah. And also, you're going to be pushing down all those great things that we just talked about that comes from ADHD, as well as, it's just not realistic. Like there's, again, without giving too much away, but as you know, John, there's an article that Jane finds, because she tries to do all this self-help stuff. She gets really annoyed, her to-do list. She gets really annoyed with herself because she can't. And so she looks online and she finds an article called 3 Easy Steps to Kill the Old You and Be Reborn.
Yep.
The idea being like, you hate yourself? Cool. don't exist anymore, and you can be a completely new person by just killing the old you, you know? And that is actually based on a real article that we found online, not called 3 Easy Steps, but it was literally like you hate yourself. I hated myself too, but then I just killed my old self, and now I'm a completely new person. You're like, that's not you can't do that.
It's not
No, because it's no.
Your whole entire lived experience before, like you can want to be not a different person, a better version of yourself, but you can't just like pretend like you never existed, you know?
Exactly. And I have a saying, like with anything really, like how much do you have to compromise before you even erase everything about yourself?
Yeah, totally.
And so it's like that in a sense for Jane is like, well, if I erase everything about myself, people will accept me for who I am.
Yeah.
But yet at the same time, though, what about the people that do accept you?
Yeah.
And that do love you and do care about you and do support you?
Definitely.
You're going to erase those people too and put more damage on them by doing that. So there's the cause and the effect and the ripple in between. Because you're not seeing the damage that you're doing. All you're doing is like, well, if I fix me, I'll be on top of the world. But at the same time, though, you're really doing self-harm and stuff like that by doing that. But I definitely love Jane going through those different articles and be like, well, if I go do this, if I do this, if I do this, guess what? I can just be this article and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
All you are, if you think about it though, and I just thought about this, and tell me what you guys both think about this. Basically, you just become a fluff piece. You just become the article that you read. You don't become nothing more but the article.
Yeah. Well, definitely. And I mean, that's kind of what happens to Jane when that's kind of why the version, again, won't go too far, but there's a version of herself that does appear to her that she, interacts with. It's kind of in the log line, so that's fine to tell. That's why the version that appears is not her, because she's taking all of herself out of this version of herself,
Right. And I like the idea of the mirror, of her own reflection looking at what she thought would actually be something that was going to help her versus it being something bad. Mm-hmm. And I definitely like that idea of self-reflection and analyzation of your own self. So that's what I got. Yeah.
We thought the windows were like, the mirrors were like a window into Jane's psyche. And, oh my gosh, now I just forgot where I was going with that.
Sucker.
With people who have ADHD, you might actually become ADHD.
There we go. But basically just, those were windows into her psyche. And we thought... It's not coming.
It's not.
Here we are.
And you thought that basically the mirror image would actually be something that would come through out of her psyche in a sense?
She's looking into a mirror and seeing within herself, kind of.
That's what I was going to say. So, and with her kind of being at odds, again, try not to get too much away, but at odds with this mirrored version self, in the end, when you are at odds with any part of yourself and not trying to incorporate any part of yourself, it's not going to end well for you. And so this is something we kind of thought about, like, yes, this is so much about ADHD and neurodivergence, but it's also, we're hoping, like, speaks to a wide range of people about just like how difficult it is to accept the parts of yourself and the dangers that can come if you don't, and the self-shame and loathing that often comes with not accepting parts of yourself and working on yourself, and this kind of like endless cycle, which we see play out with the mirrors and such in the characters.
Right, because like we said, there's like self-harm to your own self by doing stuff like that, regardless of the fact that you might think that you're doing something right, but you're actually doing something wrong.
Yeah, it's like I'm finally doing something, but it's not accepting yourself. So
yeah,
it's not the right.
Yeah.
But my question for you though, Nicole, is this: like, what would you say the most interesting thing that you have to say about the character that you were playing? What was the main challenge of playing the character and actually shaping that character into who she is?
Oh my gosh, such a good question. There was a lot we talked about with like self-loathing and guilt in this character that is this underlying reasoning behind why she is so paralyzed, on top of like her not accepting her ADHD and trying to accept these parts of herself and trying to work on these different things with herself. There's also just this like self-loathing that makes her like in this cycle of feeling guilty and paralyzed, and then because she's paralyzed, feeling guilty about that, and then but I need to help myself. There's mental health out there. Why am I not helping myself? It's like this endless cycle. So it was a really cool challenge, kind of balancing all of that underneath what Jane is going through in each scene. Because each scene isn't just about that. Each scene has so much more going on, so many other characters, all that. So it was a really awesome challenge to like fight this inner fight within inside myself.
I like that. To be honest with you, I like the fact that, someone can get something out of it aside from the ADHD thing. You can get mental health from it. You know what I'm saying? You can actually get self-help, and, and other things among that, to where you're like, okay, well, I'm not alone in this situation. And that's something that I really found that was very impactful for me to want to check it out even more. Was like, you know what? I'm glad I'm not the only one. I know there's other people that have ADHD, but it's like, am I the only one that thinks like this? Or am I the only one that gets overwhelmed or gets trapped in my own head? Or if I hurt somebody, it sticks with me to the point where I can't just let it go. I have to keep, I'm trying to think of the word that I'm trying to think of, but it's basically, I have to keep it with me through the day, even though it happened hours ago. It still sticks with me. And it's hard for me to let go of it, because I think with a person with ADHD, we care about that person's feelings so much that it just sticks with you and it's hard to get rid of. It's just like, am I really a horrible person? How do I change this behavior? And that's something that I enjoyed about the film, was the fact that there's layers to it, and there's ways of actually analyzing your own self and stuff like that. So I think this is actually going to be helpful for other people that feel like that I did. It's like, am I alone in this situation? Am I alone in this ADHD? Am I the only one that's harping on certain things way too long? So yeah, I think that this movie has legs. I think this movie has something to say.
Well, thanks. Yeah, and that's again really just wonderful to hear. I keep like joke about this film was kind of like my love letter to myself to get help for my ADHD. Because when we started writing it, I was not getting help at all. And now I'm in therapy it's been a while now, and I'm doing like very much better. And again, it was it's been so helpful to like acknowledging to myself the things I'm feeling oftentimes are coming from ADHD, and then knowing, even like that emotional dysregulation idea. I'm like, there's a word for that insanity that I feel sometimes. Like that makes me feel less alone. And then making this film and like made me feel less alone, because I was just like getting stuff out, and throughout the whole process, like was hearing from other people or the other creatives with ADHD, or even just like general mental health, things. And then now as well, like having it out in the world and having people like you say that, it maybe helped you feel less alone, or like you are responding to it. It just continues to help me feel less alone, because as much as that might happen, then sometimes, tomorrow I might go and be like, have a freak out moment or have like a total overwhelming day. But then it really does help to be like, okay, I know other people go through this too, and I know other people make it through this. And then it helps you like stop and breathe And by acknowledging your ADHD, then I can like breathe through those hard moments, you know?
Right. Just like anybody that says FML, I'm like, well, is it just one bad day? Or is it just, it's not your life, it's just one bad day that you're having.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, don't let one bad day ruin something that you think that's going to be part of your rest of your life. It's just one bad day that you had a certain episode. And that's basically what I have to do is like, you know what? Is this really just, do I really want to prolong this for a whole day? The point where it's like FML. Or do I just want to go ahead, just get through it and just calm myself down? It's like, you know what? It's just one bad moment. I'll just keep on going and go about my day instead of reflecting back on it.
Yeah.
And I commend you for going to therapy though, too, because of the fact that, you know, I think that therapy actually helps, you know, some people, and as a matter of fact, I actually did a deep dive review on Good Will Hunting recently, too. And we were talking about therapy, and as a matter of fact, some people actually commented on my shorts about how therapy is not helping them and how certain things are. But I said, well, it depends on the person. It depends on how therapeutic it actually is for the person. It's not something that is so detrimental to the point that you can't be helped in your opinion. But to be honest with you, I look at it as a way of healing and opening up wounds to actually get better versus it being stuck in your head to the point where it's like, what the hell do I do?
Definitely. And I would, you know, encourage anybody who feels like therapy doesn't work, that maybe you haven't had the right therapist for you, because that's what happened to me. I had, before this project, I had been to therapy and just never just found a therapist that worked for me. And it had been a therapist who worked for my friend or whatever, but for some reason didn't connect, or I felt like didn't understand me, or all of these different things, you know? And eventually it took a long time. And so I think that's also something people don't talk about. It's not only going to therapy, but finding a therapist is really hard, not to mention expensive, or finding a therapist that's in your freaking, you know, health
network. Right.
Your health network is really hard. And so it takes a long time. And I don't think we realize how much like emotional energy we expend even just trying to find a therapist. But for me, this therapist I've been with now for maybe like 8 months or a year, I did a lot of work to find her. And she actually specifically works with people with ADHD. She actually has ADHD herself, which is really helpful as well. And so I think, you know, I think it's a matter of finding the right person for you, which is so much easier said than done.
Yes, because I can imagine a number of therapists that you have to go through just to find the right person.
Yeah, or they're not available, like they're not accepting new patients, or you do all of this work. I mean, it took me maybe 10 months from the start of being like, okay, I'm going to get a therapist, to finally get a therapist, because I would, you know, try to find people and then reach out to them. And it's, again, we don't realize how much emotional energy we're expending and how vulnerable we feel reaching out and being like, will you be my therapist? And then they don't respond. And then you get dejected. And then so you don't do anything for a month. And then a month later, you have a freak out and you're like, I really need help. And then you do it all over again. And you're like, I already researched this person. Right. It's terrible. It's really terrible. But for me, it was very much worth it. So
you see,
my life.
I'm actually on a wait list right now with because my job actually, and I just found this out recently, that my job actually provides like 3 free sessions.
Nice.
Everything. So I'm like, okay, I didn't like. Did you know they offer like 3 free sessions? I said no. I said I was 2 years old whenever I found out about this. I said, so how do I sign up? What do I do? Yeah, because I was at the time. Back in January, my dad passed away. So, and then also having to deal with that, and then my mom and everything else all together and stuff like that. So I needed someone to talk to. And my wife's like, look, you need someone to talk to. You need to find a therapist. Because I was actually driving her nuts and everything too. So, and I still am. But I'm trying to get better at certain points, you know. But you know, it just means a lot to me that I actually have a way of actually getting to talk to somebody for therapy finally. Even though I'm on a wait list right now, but it's just the fact that my job provides that. I'm blessed to have that because not many jobs do that. So
yeah. I mean, mental health is so like not, you know, as much talk as there is about it nowadays, much like, you know, we've got, as a society, I feel like we've gone leagues farther than, you know, even 20 years ago, and like normalizing talking about it and mental health therapy and everything. But again, it's still so difficult to do, and it's such a privileged thing to be able to have access to.
Oh, for sure.
So many different reasons. Although telehealth has also helped a ton, because now at least geography is less of a you know, factor, but there's still a million other factors. Yeah. So.
But okay, one last question for you guys too. So are you guys so you guys are in some film festivals as well. How is the film doing in the film festivals? And what do you hope that you guys will get out of it in the future with that? And are you guys doing anything else after this?
Well, we were super privileged and honored to be part of Queens World Film Festival and the New York Cinefest, which actually just recently passed. And then we have one coming up that we can't say yet, but hopefully soon to be announced. So we're very excited about that. In terms of, you know, the reception, we've felt super excited by people coming up to us with similar stories as to you and being like, oh my gosh, that was me in the cafe. That was me at the checklist to do. Oh my gosh, the meditation part. Like, we've had a really nice reception of people feeling seen and just having great things to say, because I'm not sure if, you know, folks can tell given the conversation, but there's a lot of wacky stuff in our film. There's a lot of like,
yeah, we didn't get into all like the weirdness.
Yeah, there's VFX and there's funky music and there's some, you know, mind stuff and everything. So we've been super honored by the response to all of that.
That's awesome. I'm proud of you guys. You guys are really killing it over there. You know, it's very relatable. The character's relatable. Like I said, this movie has legs. I think this is actually going to end up being something that people can go ahead and gravitate towards and just have that gravitas of saying, you know what, I'm going through this. I'm glad I actually have a film now that represents someone in the ADHD world that I can actually watch. So I think I commend you guys for making something like this.
Thanks, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And thank you for, you know, having a platform where we can talk about it and share your own like personal experiences on. And
you're very welcome.
That's all we want from this film, is just people to feel seen and to share their experiences.
You're welcome. Matter of fact, I actually tweeted this out to the Holly Shorts Film Festival to this interview too. So
thanks for the shout.
You're welcome, because I believe in this film. This film needs to be talked about. Because
that's so nice.
You're very welcome. If I had my own festival, I would actually have you guys part of it. But yeah.
Just make it a festival and screen us over.
Okay, sounds good. I'll do that.
Cool.
But yeah, I'll probably have like one sponsor. It's
us.
Exactly. That's all I need. I just need you guys. But no, seriously, I congratulate both of you. Is there any other future film projects that you guys are going to be doing in the future? Is there any other ideas that you guys are doing right now, thinking about doing?
Yeah, we have a feature that we're helping to produce, and then we actually just had a writing meeting this morning with another writer that we've been working with on what is now becoming a feature, and hopefully there'll be a proof of concept happening. So that's probably our next Spelt Dog production thing, which we're very excited about.
Super
kind of
stoked.
like sci-fi a little bit. We like real stories with like genre thrown in, like focused on the, you know, a character's emotional experience, but like within the horror or sci-fi or something space, something a little bit weird. So
delving raw.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I like Donnie Darko, so you know you're right up there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, guys, so that's going to be it as far as this interview goes. I do thank you both for being here and being able to take the time out of your night to talk about your movie. Stick around, though. I just want to tell you guys one more time how much I appreciate you guys. So just stick around after the show. But guys, tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, I will have the Backlook Cinema podcast with me. We are going to be talking about Tom Cruise's 1991 film. And it's actually, if you think about it, it's actually Top Gun, but with race cars. So... so we are actually going to be doing this movie, and this movie is I'm going to tell you this movie is something that I haven't seen before. So my nostalgia rating is probably going to be pretty low compared to my other nostalgia stuff. But yeah, and you know, I'm excited to be able to review it with Backlook Cinema. And so that movie is going to that movie review is going to be tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And then Kib from Unfiltered Studios, who I'm actually a part of, we're going to be talking about Bad Boys 1. So, guys, that's going to be everything that I'm doing here on Saturday and Sunday. Monday, we are going to be doing a ultimate playlist of Queen. So we are going to be doing a Queen playlist as well, because that's what we do for our intermission episode. So go on ahead, check that out whenever you guys can. But go on ahead, check out the Unfiltered Studios family. We actually have Hypno Wellness. Get your Hypno Wellness on with the Hypno Wellness. Look at Piddle's support for your best support. And also, too, check out the Sleevy G Show. Check out the Geeky Dad podcast. Check out all those guys on Unfiltered Studios. And also check out the Stupid History Minute with Kip. So that's going to be it as far as this show goes. Thank you so much. Have a great and safe night. And always until next time. Bye-bye. See ya.